You are watching or listening to Purham and Associates. For more information, visit rpurham.com and subscribe on all social media platforms at rpurham. Thank you. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Hey, good day to you all. Welcome to Purham and Associates. I'm your host, Randy Purham. Hey, I hope you all are having a fantastic week so far and enjoying, I guess you say, getting ready to enjoy the weekend. And, of course, it is Friday. This is the time that we take to thank our men and women who are serving our nation around the world, sacrificing and committing their time and freedom in protecting our freedom, our Constitution, our way of life. We thank you and we salute you and we wish you a safe journey back home to your friends, family, and loved ones, wherever they may be. And with that all being said, ladies and gentlemen, we got a very special guest with us today, and I look very, very much forward to talking with him. And he is none other than Rabbi Michael Barclay. He is the host of the Rabbi's Table, Dialogue, Not Debate, and he's airing on CRN Digital Talk Radio. The program features bold, unscripted conversations about religion, freedom, Israel, America, and the cultural and political issues shaping today's world. Rabbi Barclay is also a widely read columnist and Torah commentator. His work appears regularly in PJ Media, the Jewish Journal, and numerous other periodicals, including the Jewish Forward, the Jewish Times, and the Acorn, where he writes on Judaism, ethics, politics, and culture. He is the author of Sacred Relationships, Biblical Wisdom for Deepening Our Lives Together, Liturgical Press 2013, a biblical commentary endorsed by leaders across multiple faith traditions, including rabbis, ministers, bishops, representatives of the Vatican, and the Chancellor of Oxford. Rabbi Barclay previously served as a professor of theology at Loyola Marymount University and lectures internationally on Judaism, cross-cultural mythicisms, and Jewish perspectives on politics and ethics. In 2013, he founded a groundbreaking synagogue model, the first non-Orthodox synagogue in the United States with no membership dues. There is no cost for high holiday services, classes, life cycle events, or bar bat mitzvah preparation. The full-service temple operates entirely on donation and grants and has become the largest provider of free high holiday services in the nation. Notably, it was also the only synagogue in California that never closed and never restricted live attendance during the COVID pandemic. Praise God on that. This innovative model has inspired synagogues across the country to adopt similar no-dues structures, creating a growing national movement. Rabbi Barclay has also served as a peak performance coach for elite performers and leaders, including Oscar and Emmy Award winners, NCAA athletes, corporate CEOs, and even professional sports organizations such as the Chicago White Sox. He is frequently invited around the world to lecture, teach, and officiate life cycle events. Ladies and gentlemen, he is also the recipient of the B'nai Zion Distinguished Humanitarian Award for his work in community, leadership, and interfaith dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the some and presenting the others. Rabbi Michael Barclay. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me and for the good work you do and that your audience does to make the world a better place.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I appreciate everything that you're doing out there. This is phenomenal work, and I want to, yeah, I want to note real quick that I am a lifelong fan of the Chicago White Sox, so thank you for helping them out.
Well, it was a long time ago. It was
Yeah,
21
it
years
was.
ago.
Although I'm in Texas now, and all that, and I adopted the Rangers as my I guess you'd say my adopted favorite team. But I still like love them both, and I actually got a chance to see them both play against each other last week up in Arlington. So that was pretty awesome. The idea of one thing that just stood out to me while I was reading your bio here, the idea of a no dues synagogue. Explain that. Like I get it that you get your money.
Okay, sure, sure. So
Mhm.
Judaism is not monolithic, and we've got an old joke that one Jew equals or two Jews equals three opinions, four synagogues, and five rabbis. And it's not monolithic. Yeah, but since World War II in America, outside the ultra Orthodox world, synagogues have paid dues. Congregants have paid dues to be able to go to services. Can you imagine being told you need to pay dues to go to Christmas and Easter services? So people paid dues. They paid money for tickets for the high holidays, our Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And, excuse me, and that's been the model in the United States, Canada, England, and South Africa. The rest of the world has been the model that it's been always, which is you donate because you're supposed to donate, and that's how you support a synagogue. After World War II, really, that it's still the way it is in most of the world, but not in America, England, South Africa, or Canada. And so 15, 16 years ago, we formed as the founding rabbi of the first non-Orthodox synagogue and conservative that has faith, and we don't charge dues. There's no cost to pay to pray. We don't charge religious school or teachings or classes. I don't think anyone should be forced to pay to pray. Certainly, there was no cost at Mount Sinai. We got a lot of heat for it. A lot of the synagogues that have a dues-based model were very upset because we were messing with their business model. And yet we have continued, and we are the largest provider of free high holiday services in the country. We have everything else during the year, services, classes, etc. Um, and everyone said it couldn't be done outside the Orthodox world, where they feel that there's Orthodox Jews have an understanding that you should tithe because that's what the Bible says.
Right.
Everyone said it couldn't be done, and uh, we've been, thank God, able to do it. It's challenging, but we get it done with God's help. So it's just sort of a model. The business model, sadly, is outside of the Orthodox world. In America, Canada, England, and South Africa is to pay dues. We changed that, rocked it on its head, and everyone said we could have survived. And thank God we're still here, thanks to supported people donating. We do a lot of interfaith work and a lot of teaching and a lot of other work as well.
That's awesome, Rabbi. And you touched on a point I was going to bring up next is like that's unlike the Christian world of the I'm Baptist, and of course your Baptist ministers they make sure you're tithing. they will they will call you, they will write you a letter, they will send you an email, they will knock on your door and say you didn't pay your tithes this month, brother Purham. I'm like, if you don't get away from my door.
Yeah, this is, and look, we're supposed to tithe, and God commands us to. And in fact, it's the one thing in the Talmud that says you're not supposed to test God, except this is the one thing you can. That if you tithe, that it's not going to affect your income. In fact, I have a friend who is an accountant, a CPA, and most of his clients are Orthodox Jews, and so he's right. He just finished a book on this. Actually, he's got a fun publisher. That he's done for the last 5 years. He went to his clients and he said, look, you're supposed to tithe, and it says you can test God on this. It's not going to affect your income. So here's what we're going to do. What do you anticipate to make this year? We're going to take 10% off the gross and put it in an escrow account. If at the end of the year you haven't made that much, you'll get a refund, and before you do any tax or anything else. And at the end of the year, if you've made more, then you'll donate one. So let's say someone anticipated making $100,000 for the coming year. They would put $10,000 into this escrow account. He's done this, I think, for 5 or 6 years with dozens of clients. And without exception, 100% of them have made more money than they anticipated and had to add to their tithing. So we should, the tithing is specifically to our house of worship. It's not just giving charity, specifically to our house of worship, or to a house of worship. And so it's a wonderful, wonderful man in accountant. I hope he gets a book deal on this very soon. It's brilliant work. And so we're supposed to do that. Unfortunately, in the Jewish world, the non-Orthodox Jewish world, conservative, reform, more secular, sometimes people think they're smarter than the Bible. They think they're smarter than their religion or their faith. And so they say, well, I'm not going to tithe 10%. I'm not going to. And so they don't. But it is the way that we're supposed to do things. And we need to encourage each other to give charity and to commit to each other as human beings and as people of faith.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you, Rabbi. And that's the thing that a lot of people, you're absolutely right. They think they know more, and they tend to not want to, adhere to the laws of whatever it is that their faith system entails. And people just kind of like, oh well, I get it on the back end. I wait till that, I wait till my income tax come in and I just give them that, type of thing. This is like, woo, the mental gymnastics that we put ourselves through just to try to, I guess you would say, justify not doing the right thing. It's amazing. It's amazing to me. But thank you for the explanation on that. I'm sure the audience, and even myself, I appreciate that and got a better, I guess you would say, understanding as to how your model of the church of the synagogues work in terms of getting income in and making the members feel accepted and welcome, despite the fact that there's no pressure to financially commit to showing up and everything else. And I think I have friends growing up, being from Chicago. And my grandmother was an avid churchgoer. The church was right across the street from our house at the time, and my grandfather, like, he loved the fact that the church was right across the street because he didn't have to drive her, and he could just tell her, "Why don't you just go to church and hang out with your friends all day and leave me alone?" So it was an interesting dynamic there. But she would go, and she would have her purse and everything else, and and do her thing all day and sometimes into the night, and she'll come home and he just like, "You got enough Jesus in you today?" So, it was like hilarious.
Well,
Watching that dynamic growing up, it was pretty awesome. But
look, we have, what people don't realize is we've got 2,000 years of Judaism synagogue life since the temple was destroyed, and the first 1,950 of them, that was the money you tithed, you went to your spiritual community, and you gave as you could, and there was no pay to pray kind of symptom. And then after World War II, that really changed with the vast majority of synagogues. I think it's one of the things that has really hurt Judaism in this country and made it more difficult for people to really embrace their faith. So, and ironically, in the church world, doing it just on tithing, doing it just on donations is called the Mosaic model. So we should all be doing that.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. You're in California, and the I don't know what's going on out there. I've been I ain't gonna say praying, but I've been kind of like in this wishful model that California was going to break off the rest of the United States and just float out into the ocean and become its own island and own country and all that. But here we are, and the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, they're starting to grow across the United States. And you have there in LA, you have one that's running for mayor against Karen Bass. Although Karen Bass herself she considers herself kind of like under the socialist model as well. I want to get your thoughts, Rabbi, on how the DSA is trying to rewrite our Constitution. They want to reimagine our way of life here in the United States. How does that translate in your neck of the woods? The thought that these people are trying to just destroy what we have here going on.
Well, look, they're doing it very successfully, certainly here in California. The fires that we had are a direct result. They were not only preventable, they were predictable. Karen Bass had made the choice to keep a reservoir empty. She made the choice to get rid of a number of fire engines and people. And we have in California is a more and more challenging place every day. I'm still here because, I think there needs to be at least one rabbi who's going to be here, who's going to speak out and say what's true and stick up for Jews and for Americans. I guess here's a simple way of describing what's going on in California. Are you familiar with something called AB 2017? Have you heard of this?
I have not actually.
Okay, so this is passed in California and is waiting for Newsom's signature, which he may or may not do. AB 2017 is the following. In California, like in all states, you have state holidays. And in a state holiday, it's a day off for school and for businesses and whatever. And it's also the week beforehand, we educate our children in elementary school about it. So if it's Memorial Day the week beforehand, we'll talk about Memorial Day in schools and Labor Day similarly, etc. In California, there is no religious holiday that is a part of the California holiday calendar. Christmas is part of the calendar, but it's a federal holiday, and it's not because of Jesus. Christmas became a federal holiday during President Grant's term, and it was based on the idea of a day of family togetherness. It has nothing to do with the Christianity aspect of it, why it's a federal holiday. And in fact, Thomas Jefferson even had problems with Thanksgiving because he felt that was too religious. So we've never had a religious holiday. It's certainly not in California. AB 2017, which passed with the unanimous support of the Democrats because they have a supermajority, makes two religious holidays, into now official state holidays for the state of California, meaning that they're not days off school, that they would be teaching them in the schools to children. And they're two different Islamic religious holidays. One is celebrating the month of conquest at the end of Ramadan. The other, Ain al-Adha, is called the Feast of Sacrifices, where observant Muslims throw stones at a rock wall to practice stoning the infidel, and where over 50 million animals are sacrificed every year on that one day worldwide. This is now an official California holiday once it gets signed by Newsom. The Democratic Socialists have paired very, very well with the whole jihadi gangs, the jihadi world, the Muslim world that wants to create, that is observantly practicing the Quran and the practice of wanting to create a worldwide caliphate based on Sharia law. And they have created this partnership, this Democratic Socialists, the socialist and the Muslim, Mondami as an example, or El Sayed as an example. But they're really Muslims more than they are, they're Muslims posing as socialist clothing. And their goal is to take over society from within, and they are succeeding. So that's a fight that's going on here in California, and needs to be a much bigger and stronger fight. And it's hard because it's an uphill battle here, because there is a Democratic supermajority, so they keep giving permission for these socialist and Muslim groups to do things that are really self-destructive to our nation. So I hope that helps a little bit in understanding.
Yes, thank you, Rabbi. And you're absolutely right. And it is sad to see, the I guess you say the formation and the growth and the of this movement. And to your point, the Islamification is what we call it here in Texas, of the Muslims coming in and taking over government. And ladies and gentlemen, if you don't understand what civilization jihad means, this is exactly what we're talking about right now. And this is where Muslims come in, and they come in under the cloak of being good, nice, want to assimilate, but at the same time, once they get into office or get into a position of power, they try to implement what they see as the righteous way of living and everything else, and that is through the mechanisms of Sharia law. And so here in Texas, we're wrestling with this right now. The Texas legislature just stood up a caucus, a Sharia Islamification caucus, so they can start working on legislation and everything to combat some of these things. We have mosques popping up all over throughout Texas now, and little cities, little epic cities that's trying to come in and everything else. But the tension on an ignorant side of the house of this, because just like with anything, we have extremisms on everything. The the attention is moving from Muslims to now Indians with their temples, and they're like, oh wait, they're coming in too, so we got to stop this too, and let's get rid of the H-1B visas coming into Texas because the Indians are taking that up. So there's a snowball effect that's going on with targeting different ethnic groups based on their religion or based on where they came from, type of thing, and they're thinking that this is a takeover of Texas by said groups. And so I want to caution the audience, the American people, the international people that's listening today, to be careful with that, because my next point to you will be, this is where we start to get into the anti-Semitism that's on the rise, and I want to get your thoughts on that in a minute.
So I think
Mhm.
I think that there's well, first of all, you're absolutely right in terms of people being conscious. Here's the reality, and the Quran is the Christian scriptures are a book about deepening your relationship with the divine through Christ.
Yes.
The Jewish scriptures are books about deepening your relationship with God through the Jewish pathway. The sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, the Buddhist teachings, the Hindu teachings, these all actually are spiritual books and spiritual teachings about deepening your awareness, your experience of divinity through whatever the religious pathway is. Islam's not like that, Randy. If you study the Quran is not a book of religion, and it is more so could be described as a business plan to create a worldwide caliphate based on Sharia law.
Yes.
So I think there's a deeper question of whether Islam is even a religion and whether it should be considered a religion. Excuse me. Our nation is very much who it is because we embrace religions. And my belief is if God's infinite, which you and I can agree on, then who do we get to say, where do I say my path is right and someone else's is wrong? Moreover, if God can accept how we all pray, why don't we accept each other? And I say all the time, I believe the Messiah is going to come. I'm going to say welcome. You, Randy, you're going to say welcome back. And we're both going to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important to honor those things and also to realize, hey, there's a qualitative difference. Robert Spencer's done a tremendous amount of great work on this. A qualitative difference in what the Quran teaches and in what the Hadiths teach and what that's about than what any other religion is.
Yeah.
So it's not Islamophobia. It's recognizing it's a political movement, not a religion.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's a qualitative difference.
Correct. Absolutely. Right. And that's the thing that I've been telling, some of my colleagues here is that, you have to understand that there's a difference between religion and politics. That's why we don't talk about religion or politics in the public square or, in the workplace, because they're taboo topics. But there's also a blurring of the lines between the two. And so what I would say radical Muslims do is they utilize our own laws against us by saying that, my religion says that we're allowed to throw stones at our wives, and we're allowed to behead our kids if they get out of line, type of thing. Although I'm being very extreme there, but you have some people that think that way, and my three tours.
Well, it's not that you, Randy. It's what the Quran says.
Yeah, exactly.
The
Yeah,
Quran says.
yeah.
Okay, look.
I was just going to say, although those things do happen, that is I'm utilizing extreme examples, but those are actually tenets of the Quran. You're absolutely right, Rabbi. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, look, it's very clear in the Quran of what's called a kafar. Kafar means an infidel. Kafar is someone who's a Jew, a Christian, or even a non-observant Muslim is an infidel.
Yes.
And an infidel must be enslaved, converted, or killed. Period. And if you look at the charter of ISIS, of Hamas, of Hezbollah, of the Palestinian Authority, in these charters, they all have a quote from the Quran. This is a direct quote, and it says, "The day of judgment will not come until every Jew is killed, and the few that are left are hiding behind rocks and trees. And the tree cries out, 'O Abdullah, Muslim, there's a Jew hiding behind me, come kill him.'" That's their theology. So, it's very difficult to have. That's why all what's going on in Iran is, in many ways, it's just so sad. This is not a war about politics, oil, power, money. This is a war about theology. And how do you sit down with whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, or Iran, because they're all proxies of Iran and the RGC, how do you sit down with someone who their starting and ending point in the negotiation is, well, I want you dead. My religion tells me that I can lie to you or do anything else to get you dead. So I'm happy to sit here until you're dead.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because that's my goal. So, it's a different theology. And I think we need to be aware of that and not lump in, as you said, how we need to deal with Islam and how we deal with religion, because Islam really is more of a political movement. How do we deal with religions, whether it's Hinduism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Taoism, Christianity, Catholicism? It doesn't matter which one. And we really need to respect each other and treasure each other and recognize those are all very qualitatively different than Islam, which, as I say, is more, if you look at the text, it's just more of a political movement than it is anything else.
Absolutely. And, unfortunately, the Democrats seem like they're adopting the tenets of, Islam. They're willing to take, to the streets and be violent, against their political adversaries or their political opponents. They're willing to lie. They're willing to steal, cheat. They're willing to commit fraud and everything. And it's just like, man, y'all are like two peas in a pod here. What's going on? Y'all are y'all cool?
They blend well together.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so the question that we can't answer is that because that's how these progressive Democrats inherently are, or have they been influenced by Islam? I think it's actually the latter. I think it's because they've wanted votes so much. They want to be pandering to offices. They've brought in people like Rashid Tlaib and Omar and different people, Lantani, people who are bringing those Muslim values into the Democratic Party through the progressive Democratic Socialist wing.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you there. And it's crazy to me because I want to play this clip. This is a national DSA co-chair, and she was on Fox the other day talking about their platform. And I want to get your thoughts on the back end of this because to me, I said, this has to be a joke. And when I first saw it, I was like, there's no way somebody's just openly saying all this crazy stuff and is expected to be taken seriously at that. But first, I want to give you a shout out. Ladies and gentlemen, you go to rabbibarclay.com, excuse me, and check out, their website, his website. And,
if I may interject, Randy, thank you for doing that. It's actually better just to go to the rabbi'stable.com.
Rabbi'stable.com. There we go.
Yeah, thank you. I apologize, but yeah, thank you for doing that. Yeah, the Rabbi's Table.
Rabbi'stable.com.
The rabbi'stable.com.
Yes, and check out. We're gonna talk about the podcast next. And so yes, we're gonna get. But I want to get your thoughts on this real quick.
Phenomenon or just a blue coastal phenomenon. Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things that are part of your platform, and I want to ask you, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Senate.
True.
Okay, replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then let's go back through some of those then. Abolish the Senate. There are people who are in the Senate now who are very supportive of DSA. They lose their seats?
Well, the Senate is an anachronistic institution. It comes from the British House of Lords. It is made to protect power for, the Senate was part of the system that was made to make sure that the people didn't have too much of a say. So we want to expand Congress significantly, but make it a unicameral legislature.
Okay, and without the presidency and Supreme Court, so abolish ICE, would there be any enforcement of immigration laws, or with abolishing the border, we're not enforcing immigration laws, they go away?
Yeah, so again, this is part of this longer term plan, and part of it
But if you
includes,
can get there.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get to the place where the U.S. is not destabilizing countries in order to mine them for resources, there will be significantly less migration.
What do you say to those, though, that would potentially destabilize the U.S.? Because there's only so much the economy can bear, and when you have a flood of people coming in, it might not work out economically, according to a lot of analyses, if you just open up the borders and there's no enforcement at all.
Well, we're not saying open the borders tomorrow. We're saying rebuild an economy and a society that works for everyone. And the open borders is part of a longer term international plan that involves us stopping destabilizing countries. Most people who are coming to this country are coming as economic refugees, and we destabilized their country. We did that.
Well, a lot of, if you look at data, the Center for Immigration Studies says right now the households here in the U.S. that are headed up by people who are here illegally, nearly 61% of them are on some type of government or welfare program here in the U.S. Can we afford to do that? I mean, at some point you run out of resources.
Oh yeah, we run out of resources having all these people just flood into the country and just do whatever. And Rabbi, you probably know better than anybody else, being in the world of public service to communities and what have you. Would that work if you open?
Okay, so let's be simple. She's just a useful idiot.
Yes, I agree.
One of my undergraduate degrees was in political science from UC Berkeley. She's just an idiot, and I'm disappointed Fox even gives her any airtime. Yeah, she's just a useful idiot. She's probably She's clearly pro-Palestine, not even knowing that there is no historical Palestine. But I would bet that she's marched with her from the river to the sea, not realizing that if she went over to any of these Arab nations, she would be beheaded. Yep. She's just an idiot. And it's not even a belief in socialism or something else. She's just truly stupid. So I'm not sure what kind of coach, quote unquote, she is for the Democratic Socialists. It's not even well phrased stuff that she's talking about in terms of socialism. She's just a useful idiot. And a historical ignoramus as well. Mm-hmm. So, that kind of person, I really believe, should be given about as much attention as one flatulates. Okay, goodness. I'm sorry. I agree. Randy. So Randy, look, I'm a rabbi. I'm an academic. I get asked to be on a lot of shows. I've been asked numerous times and turned down going on Piers Morgan to be with, to be in a quote unquote debate with any of these nincompoops like Dave Smith, etc., who are just ignoramuses. My answer is, you know what? When I'm walking in a playground and there's a 3-year-old screaming from a sandbox, you don't get in a dialogue with them. You ignore them. And you keep them in the sandbox. You put them in the corner, and that's what people like this girl should happen to her.
Yeah.
It's just sad.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree with you, Rabbi. And I was surprised that I think they did. I think Fox brought her on. They was like, because she's a useful idiot. They was like, oh, we can make a spectacle out of this. This is gonna ratings right here. We got to get this person.
But again, it's so.
Mm-hmm.
But again, so here's the reality, right? Pandering to things. So, okay, we're going to do this to show how stupid someone is. But you know what? All of the people who are democratic socialists said, oh, look how brilliant she was. Oh, look, she was a champion on that conservative, horrible place, Fox. I just don't think you engage with that kind of thing. You put it in a corner and you box it up and keep it away from anything mainstream at all. That's just my opinion. Obviously not Fox's opinion, which is fine.
Yeah. I would have brought her on. I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm not talking to that. Nope, not at all. Maybe a street interview if you want to mess with people type of thing. Sure, like Water's World type of thing. Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, sure, okay, no problem. But Rabbi, I want to jump into your podcast. Tell everybody about your podcast, the rabbi'stable.com. Tell everybody about it and how they can engage with that and all, and what was like I guess you would say the impetus or the motivation behind.
It's very kind of you, Randy. For years, I was been asked to do a radio show and a podcast, and for a lot of reasons have said no. I have not the time nor particularly the energy or desire to go into the public square that way. I do a lot of writing. I'm a father. I have a congregation. I still live now. And then I was approached by a man named Michael Horn, his daughter Jennifer Horn. You may know Jennifer. She's a talk journalist with Salem, and Michael's been in the radio business forever. And they said, Rabbi, Dennis Prager's out of it because of his health, and Charlie's been killed, and we need a voice out there that's an authentic Jewish voice, it's an authentic pro-Israel voice. And so we started just under 4 months ago, started this show. It's a weekly radio show. We're on, I believe, 5 stations right now. Our flagship is KABC in Los Angeles, and as well as a weekly podcast. And the show is called The Rabbi's Table, Dialogue, Not Debate. The vast majority, as you know, of these podcasts are clickbait. They're screaming and incendiary. That's not what this is. This is about being able to have dialogue, not debate, being able to disagree without being disagreeable, being able to have different icons on and have real dialogue. So, excuse me. So we've had guests ranging from, including Alan Dershowitz, Tommy Robinson, Dinesh D'Souza, Jonathan Tobin, major people, Ambassador David Friedman. It's a weekly show. And we've been doing that. We just taped the show yesterday with 2 amazing thinkers and cultural icons, Noah Ben-Shia, who's a best-selling author, and Sean Thompson, who was actually the world champion surfer in the 70s and made surfing into the business it is. Also dealt with some real tragedies and wrote an amazing book called The Code, which has been a bestseller, to heal yourself. So it's about having icons on and having real dialogue, not just the surface stuff, but who are you? Why are you? How are you? It's always pro-Israel, because I think that's important to bear out the truth that there is no such thing as Palestine. There never has been. There's never been a country, a flag, a nation, a language, a coin, or a stamp, or a border. And we've talked about that. We've talked about all sorts of different things. And the last 3 weeks before this week, I was in Israel. And so Jennifer was actually talking with me from Israel. And we're talking about Israel, but we have guests coming up from Eric Metaxas to Alex Marlowe to Senator Roger Marshall. So different people, and hopefully a lot of entertainment and education, and it comes from a 19th century concept that, which many people do not know, which is called Rabbi in Yiddish, and the leaders of a town would gather at the rabbi's table, and much public policy was actually determined at the table through dialogue. And to be sitting together at dinner. And so that's kind of what the concept is, sit down at the table together with these different icons, and let's see where the dialogue grows, and what we experience. So thank you. I'm saying you can find the Rabbi's Table Dialogue Not Debate on all of your platforms, Spotify, YouTube, certainly on any of the ways of doing that. On the archive you'll find each week, and it's building. We just got some metrics back this past week, where apparently, even though we haven't even been on for 4 months yet, we're in the top 1% of podcasts worldwide. So hopefully we're doing something, and it's about trying to make the world a better place, one person at a time, and through real dialogue. And I'll push back with people, and we can again disagree without being disagreeable. Wouldn't that be nice to have an America like that again?
It would be. It's to me. I write about this in my book, Polarizing America, how we became so divided in just the simple things. I'm waking up and I'm arguing with people about the definition of a woman, like quite literally, like it was like, or gender, or even more crazier. I'm arguing with people in Austin here about taxes. I'm like, you're crying about affordability, but you want to pay more taxes to a project that you're never going to see. So they're like, you Republicans are so selfish, and I'm like, no, it's common sense. Like, why would I voluntarily pay more taxes? I'm a proponent of abolishing the 16th Amendment personally. I don't believe in the income tax system. But outside of that, like, fine, we got taxes, okay, whatever. But I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, let me check the box on this ballot to raise my taxes on something that I'm not going to, number one, use. Number two, you're not going to use. Number three, we don't know where the money is going, type of thing. So we got this project called, this light rail system that they're trying to put in called Project Connect, that they've been working on for the last 5 years, but they already spent over $1 billion on the project. And it's like, you haven't even broken ground yet. So where's the money at? So it's the stupidity of these people that continue to support these ideas, and they politicize it. And it's like, no, this is not a political issue. This is a common sense, nonpartisan, there's no politics into this, as far as party goes. This is just everyday American concern about putting food on the table and not wasting money on stupid things. And so it's amazing to me how we devolved as a society to that regard. And to your point, Rabbi, I don't know if we're ever going to get back to common sense governance. I just don't see it, and not in my lifetime anyway. I'm pretty
everything works in cycles. Eventually, the cycles just may be very, very long. And I have faith in God, so I have faith that everything will work out in the end. I may or may not be here, but you talk about gender dysphoria. Look, there's X chromosomes, there's Y chromosomes, and I don't really care what you do. You can't change them.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I remember when I went to school at Berkeley long ago, there was a guy, polka dot man, polka dot suit, but no polka dot suit. And for a while, he was in the middle of Sprout Plaza and he'd be pounding on 2 rubber pieces. And if you asked him what he was doing, he said he's changing my Y chromosomes to X chromosomes. He pound all day, not going to happen. And one of the problems in our society is that there's the issue of gender, which is your X and Y chromosomes. There's the issue of sexuality, which is your sexual preference, straight, bi, gay, whatever. And there's the issue of energy, male and female energy, female bringing in, male going out. We all have male and female energy, and it shifts at different times. We all That's a choice. We have our own choice of being straight, gay, or bi, but you can't change chromosomes. You can't change your gender. And as you say, that's just common sense. And the whole transgender movement is, I wrote an article for PJ Media about this, that it's idol worship. Because it's saying, God made me this, but I'm going to say I'm this, even though I'm not.
Correct.
I have no issue with someone who has gender dysphoria. I have no issue if someone wants to live as a woman and they're born as a man. I have no issue at all. I really don't. Those are their choices. And my teachings are our faith has different teachings than some of the stuff in Christianity, and there's arguments about it, but it doesn't really, my rights end at the end of my nose, your rights end at the end of your nose. It doesn't bother me. Mm-hmm. But don't start screaming at me that I need to play into your fantasy, number one.
Thank you.
And don't start screaming at me that I need to buy into all of this. If who you are is a drag queen, then who you are is a drag queen. But to say that you're a different sex, to say that your chromosomes have changed, to say a man can have a baby, is just stupid. For a Supreme Court justice not to be able to answer the definition of a woman is, as you say, politicizing an issue that shouldn't be politicized and shouldn't even be an issue. Right. Because it's just as antithetical to common sense. I certainly do not want anyone ever persecuted, prosecuted, or in any way put down through how they choose to live their life. If that is your choice, that is your choice. But at the same time, don't make me say and society say, we now have to embrace your choice as a societal norm, as a societal choice. Right. I made the analogy once. In Judaism, we have these things called laws of kashrut. You're allowed to eat this food, you're allowed not to eat this food. And other than those of us who observe it, most Jews in America probably don't keep kosher. Maybe they eat ham or bacon or shrimp. That's okay. I'm fine with anybody eating anything they want. They want to have lobster, go have lobster. You want to go and eat an insect from the ocean? Go knock yourself out. I don't care. But that's your choice. You don't get to say Judaism now is going to make shrimp kosher. It's your choice. I accept that your choice is for you. But don't try and change who we are of our 1,000 years of history. I accept that your choice is to view yourself as a woman. I am, I accept that and certainly will care about you and respect you until you decide to tell me that we have to change society to go around you. Because that's not okay.
That's not okay. Exactly.
That's not okay. So we need the common sense too.
Yes, absolutely. Rabbi, thank you so much for your time today. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I'd love to have you back on again anytime.
Absolutely.
And we could get into some stuff because society gives us things to talk about. It's like you said, endless pit of topics that we could get into. And I'd love to have you on to get your thoughts on those different things. Please tell us where people can follow you, find you, and support you, sir.
The easiest thing to do is to go to therabbistable.com. It's therabbistable.com. And from there, you can find out about the synagogue. You can find about the work I do, the videos that we do, the podcast, the radio show. You can find out all those kind of things. I also am a columnist for PJ Media. And beyond that, since October 7th, or October 8th, actually, of 2023, I write a daily email, goes out to a few thousand people, excuse me, about what's actually going on in the Middle East, so you can know what's really going on the ground there. And then I don't write on Sabbath or on festivals, and all that's free. It's all just get involved. we can make a change if we make a change one person at a time. If we remember that at the heart of all things is love, and we really have respect for each other. So you can find any of that stuff. You can find episodes, links to podcasts and radio shows of the Rabbi's Table, to other interviews, to speaking that I do, to writing. I think most of it's at therabbistable.com.
Awesome.
And again, the podcast on every podcast platform that you can think of.
Good deal. Yes, thank you so much, Rabbi. And ladies and gentlemen, I highly recommend that you tune in, check it out. As he mentioned earlier, that it's up in the 1% as the most favored and listened to podcast out there. 4 months in. Salute.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you. That's tremendous. That is awesome.
You're kind. You're very
I've been doing
kind.
this 15 years and I can't even get into 20%. You know?
It's a world I don't know. It's a world I don't know. I'm not a huge. As I say, they kind of dragged me into doing this, and as long as we keep it in the right way with integrity, then I want to do it. I want to make the world a better place, one person at a time. And I think it's really important in today's world that we do that we honor each other, respect each other, and I know that passion stems from boundaries and ethics, and to really, it's so sad. I will tell you, I'll leave you with a story, Randy.
Yes, sir.
So my grandma lived to be 100 years old. God rest her soul. She was one of those Jewish grandmas, 4'7" with 6 inches of hair, right? And back in the 90s, when she was in her 90s, and I don't know if you remember this or not, my brother, God rest his soul, he and I got her as a birthday gift something called Web TV. Do you remember Web TV, or did you ever hear of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
You could go on the internet on your television.
Yep.
Okay. So she's in the early 90s, get her Web TV and hook it up on her TV and spend, get on and spend about an hour in different chat rooms. And at first, she did not, and remember, she's born in 1903. So at first she's not even believing that she's talking to someone in Australia and England and this kind of stuff. And then she does, and after about an hour, she's tired, and so we stop, and we have some tea and toast with jam on it, which she liked to do. And I said, "So, Grandma, what do you think of this internet thing?" And she said some of the wisest words I've ever heard. She said, "This will either save the world or destroy it, and I'm glad I won't be alive to see which."
Wow.
Only from an elder would you hear something like that, like your grandma or my grandma.
Right.
And it's true. And I think that the outside of having social media is what you're doing, what we're trying to do, the idea of having dialogue and trying to make the world a better place. And the downside is the Candace Owens, Tyler Crossons, Nick Fuentes, Groypers, and that kind of stuff. And it's our choice what we support as human beings. But if we keep supporting the evil, then that's what's going to control the world.
Right.
If we keep supporting, treasuring each other, and caring about each other, then that's what's going to save the world. I think my grandma was right.
Yes, I agree.
So I thank you for having me on your show, and for all you and your audience do. I really do. Thank you.
Absolutely, Rabbi. Thank you so much, and God bless you and your family, and good luck out there, and be safe, most importantly, and I also say most importantly, have fun. We got to enjoy what we're doing at the same time. Otherwise, it's like, what's the point of doing it? So be safe and have fun, and God bless you, sir, and I'll see you again soon.
God bless you as well. Psalm 100, the work of God is found to be joyous. So let's go have some joy and have a great week, and have just God bless you.
Absolutely. Take care. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Rabbi Michael Barclay. Hey, seriously, go check out, the rabbistable.com and get into that. And if you find the works that he's doing over there pleasing to you and whatnot, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. We all got to support each other out here, and in the good works that we're doing or trying to do. Type of thing. Because the only way we're going to be able to combat evil is by doing good works and, and being willing to fight against it. There's that old saying, the only thing that's necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to sit back and do nothing. And so we have to be the ones that, do the right thing and willing to stand up and fight against these things. So, folks, it's Friday, and I got to get up out of here because I do have another engagement to get on to. And so I want you all to be safe this weekend and reflect upon, what's going on in our country and what you can do and to combat and save our country's direction of, we're falling apart. So what can you do to contribute to our society to make it better? That's something to think about for you this weekend. As President John Kennedy said, "Not ask what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." Y'all have a good one. Ciao, ciao. I hope you enjoyed today's program. You can follow, like, share, subscribe on Spotify, Substack, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and your news. And also, you can download Let the Truth Be Told app on your favorite streaming platforms, such as Fire Stick, Apple TV, and Roku. Take care. God bless.